Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to talk to you about Mixolydian and how you may have been using it without knowing it for years. So why do the video at all if you're already using it? Well, first of all, you may not be using it, and if you are, you need to understand where you can use it, where you can't use it, and how it relates to chords. I'm going to start off by giving you some easy shortcuts to get you up and running with Mixolydian, and then we're going to go into a little bit more detail about how to really use it. For those of you that want to understand not just Mixolydian but all of the modes inside out, you really need to start from the basics. You need to start from the major scale, then look at intervals, triads, how chords function in keys, harmonizing the major scale, all that cool stuff, and then work up to modes. And shameless plug here, but I put all that information in one place, this book here. And this is called Music Theory and Application for Guitarists. It's a very concise book that gets straight to the point with no waffle. So it starts with the basics, the major scale, works up to modes, and then goes beyond that. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Mixolydian is often used in modern music, usually giving a kind of major feel. And I mentioned already you may have already been using modes, and here's how you may have been doing that. So let's assume you know pattern 1 of the A minor pentatonic scale. If not, here it is. That's 5/8, 5/7, 5/7, 5/7, 5/8, 5/8, and reverse. 8/5/8, 5/7, 5/7, 5/7, 5/8, 5. Good old pattern 1. And this is a minor scale, which of course should only work in minor keys, but we see it used in major songs, including those using the Mixolydian mode. So the reason is our minor pentatonic scale is very forgiving. But there's one note in particular that clashes in major keys, and it's this note here. Okay, so if I'm playing in the key of A major, see that note there? That's called a major third when compared to our root note here. But yet our scale doesn't have that note, it has this note, which clashes. In fact, if I play a major third and this minor third at the same time, you get a clash. Okay, so if I play a pentatonic scale over this, there's a wrong note. So what we do is we kind of correct this note, and this is the thing you might have seen before. We often play this bad note and pull it up towards the major third, like this, or push it. Okay, and it's not only there, it's also here. This is also the same note, a minor third. We can correct this slightly, give it a little push, and it sounds less dissonant than just sitting on that note. Same with this note here, we can slightly pull it. Let me show you what I mean. If I play my looper here, a chord of A, and if I play A minor and sit on this note, it sounds very jarring and dissonant. So if I slightly bend it, and this one here, and if I don't bend that top note, yeah, that's slightly out of tune, but of course we don't have to bend the note, we can actually just slide or hammer to the major third. So for example, when Chuck Berry played Johnny B. Good, he went major third, and then he went minor major third. Okay, it works better going from the wrong note to the right note. It doesn't work so well if you go the other way. Sounds kind of odd. There's one other note in that scale which can be potentially problematic, but we'll come back to that later, and that's this note here, this minor seventh. Anyway, so once you know your minor pentatonic scale patterns across the whole neck, you can adapt them in this same way. So, you know, if you're not too familiar with your patterns, you know, you want to go away and learn all 5 of them. Here they are very quickly. Pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3, 4, 5, and back to 1. Now what you do is, if you want to correct the minor third, you can either do it by ear and kind of try and hear where it is. For example, if I'm playing in pattern 2, and I notice that note there sounds a bit dissonant, I know that I can bend it up to the major third, or hammer. Okay. Of course, you could just learn this. You could learn that basically the wrong note is always the next note after the root note. Okay, so here's our root note. The next note is the one you've got to be careful with. You can use that in any minor key, but in a major key, ideally you want to slightly bend it or move over. Okay, so let's try this little Mixolydian lick. We're going to play in the key of A. What we're going to do is we're going to take our wrong notes, slightly bend this one, run down the scale, correct that one, and then we'll slide this wrong note here, it's a minor third, up to that, and play a root. So we've got. Okay, it's kind of got a Mixolydian feel to it. We'll talk more about why it's Mixolydian later on. It goes without saying that a major pentatonic scale does work in major keys. This is the major pentatonic scale. 5, 7, 4, 7, 4, 7, 4, 6, 5, 7, 5, 7. Some people call that pattern 2 or the minor pentatonic scale, but the numbering is arbitrary. It doesn't matter too much. All you need to know is this one is kind of a bit dark, pattern 1, and pattern 2 is a bit happier. Okay, so what we can do then is we can actually take our correct major pentatonic scale over the chord of A, mix it in with our slightly not correct minor one, and we get this kind of pseudo Mixolydian thing. Or something a bit simpler. I could be playing very simple pentatonic licks. Hammer to that note there. Now, so far we've only covered one part of the neck. Ideally, we want to know all of these everywhere we go. So, preferably using chords as landmarks. Now, I'm going to put a link up here to a video I did all about covering those patterns and using chords as landmarks to help you find them. For example, the pattern we just learned, the major one, fits right over this chord here. There's also a pattern that fits right over this chord of A here. There's one more potential problem then with our minor pentatonic scale. We'll go back to that for a second, and that is this note here. This is what's called a minor seventh, relative to this root note here. Now, as the name implies, it doesn't belong to a major key. However, as we'll find out later, it does work over Mixolydian chord progressions. For now, we can accept that this does actually belong to most rock and blues tunes in major keys, and let's look at why. Many blues tunes and rock tunes use dominant 7 chords. Okay, or 7 for short. So that's an A7 or an A dominant 7. And if you look carefully at this chord, you'll see underneath my bar, there is that note, that danger note. It's not dangerous at all now. It works over dominant 7 chords. So there's a golden nugget for you. Mixolydian works over dominant 7 chords, like, or dominant chords in general, like A7, A9, A11, A13. There are exceptions, but we're not going to go there for now. Most of the time, we can just use pentatonic, okay? So let's prove. Let's play an A7 into the looper here. If I play my little hybrid scale, minor, major, added a blue note there, why not? So what if we don't have a dominant 7 chord, like an A7? What if we just have a straight chord of A like this, a triad? Can we use Mixolydian here? Well, that depends on how this chord is behaving. Every major key has 3 major triads known as the 1 chord, 4 chord, and 5 chord. If a song resolves or feels like home on the 5 chord, then we need to play the 5th mode of that key, the Mixolydian mode, which looks like this. Here's the whole Mixolydian scale now. We're going to take out that wrong minor third. This is a completely Mixolydian scale. I'll add a few notes. By the way, for those that know about intervals, we've got root, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, flat 7, root, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, flat 7, or minor 7th again, back to the root. 2, 3, 2, 1, flat 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, flat 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that scale, unsurprisingly, works over things that have a major third and a flat 7, like our A7 chord. But as I said before, sometimes we don't have that luxury of having a dominant 7 chord as a real giveaway. So how do we know when a chord is behaving as a 5 chord? Well, if you look at all these chords here on the screen, you'll see that every key has a collection of chords. The 1 chord is always major, then you get minor, minor, major, major, minor, and diminished. Or if you extend those chords, you get major 7, minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, and then minor 7, flat 5. So how can we spot if we... Now, it's obvious if you've got a 5 chord that's been extended to a dominant 7 chord. It only happens once in a key. But what if we have just a straight triad? How do we know if that chord is behaving as a 1 chord, a 4 chord, or a 5 chord? Well, I'm going to give you a shortcut. If I have a major chord like this, and it's, say, preceded by another major chord 2 frets lower, there's only one place that happens in a key, between the 4th chord and the 5th chord. And if that 5 chord there, if that's behaving as the home chord, the resolving chord, we need to play the 5th mode. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to play A, and then G, and then back to A. Okay, so we've got 5 chord, 4 chord, resolving back to the 5 chord. If I play my scale, you can tell that sounds like it works. So let's give another example. Let's say we've got a chord of D, and then we've got a C in front of it, and we're resolving on the D. We're treating that fifth chord, 4 chord, 5 chord. We're treating the fifth chord as if it is our resolving chord, our home chord. Therefore, we're playing the fifth mode, D Mixolydian. So I could play that from a D here and do our usual pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Okay, or once I know my patterns really well, or intervals really well, I can play that from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. A chord progression won't always be so obviously Mixolydian, but if these two chords appear somewhere in our progression and we resolve on this 5 chord, there's a good chance we're playing the Mixolydian mode. Okay, so I'm ignoring key changes here. Let's say, for example, I've got A, D, then G. Okay, you can still see at some point in there I've got 2 major chords next to each other. They might not be subsequent chords. You might have... Okay, but it's still Mixolydian. Now, if all else fails, just use your ear. See if you can hear the difference between this. Here's a major chord progression. Here's a Mixolydian chord progression. Hear the difference? The major one is kind of more smooth and predictable. And Mixolydian is a bit more in your face. Let's make our own Mixolydian chord progression. We'll adapt to the key of C to make it more in your face, to give us a Mixolydian sound. So we'll start with a chord of C, but we'll treat it like a 5 chord. Then we'll play a 4 chord, and then we'll play a 1 chord. That was C, the 5 chord, B flat, the 4 chord, F, the 1 chord. So actually we're playing chords from the key of F, but we're not resolving on the F, we're resolving and finishing on the chord of C. So that sounds like we're resolving on the 5th chord in the key of F, so we are playing the 5th mode of the key of F. We're playing C Mixolydian. We could make it a dominant 7 chord if we want. You can always do that on the 5 chord, by the way. So we'll play that into a looper and we'll see if we can solo over the top of it. So here we go. We've got, so here we go. 2, 3, 4, C, B flat, F. Let's go back to B flat, loop. Okay, we'll play our Mixolydian scale. Something really simple. 2, 3, 4. You may have noticed that what began as some simple shortcuts ended up a lot more complicated. We went into some theory as well. And if I could go back in time and tell myself how to understand modes quicker than I did, I would probably say, look, start with the major scale and then do intervals, triads, harmonizing the major scale, all that cool stuff, and then just work up to modes bit by bit. So I'm going to put a link at the end of this video to a playlist I did all about music theory, but also check out my book. I've done that link in the description below. Of course, if you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section below. I'll try to get back to you with an answer. Also, if you've got suggestions for future videos, any particular topics, theory, technique, whatever you'd like me to go over, I can do that as well. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.